My next guest is a best-selling author, MacArthur genius, and National Book Award winner. Please welcome back to The Late Show, Ta-Nehisi Coates. Good to see you again.
Good to be back.
Now, the new book right here is called The Message. The book opens with a quote that I really love here from George Orwell.
Yeah.
It says, "In a peaceful age, I might have written ornate or merely descriptive books, and might have remained almost unaware of my political loyalties. As it is, I have been forced into becoming a sort of pamphleteer."
Yeah.
Now, I can dig that, Daddy-O. Why was it important for you to start the book with that?
Because I'm really a nice guy that likes beautiful words and beautiful sentences. I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight, but...
What, do you think this book is a punch that's being thrown?
Yeah.
And you don't mean to do that, or you don't want to do that?
I meant to do it. I didn't want to, but I didn't mean to do it. I knew it was going to be a fight.
You'd rather not. You're a lover, not a fighter,
oh my
is what
God,
you're saying.
am I ever? Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But, you know, in the world that we live in, you know, climate change, democracy at stake, any number of issues that feel existential, you don't have the right or the ability just to sit back and enjoy yourself and do backflips and amuse yourself with your pretty sentences. It's got to mean something, got to be about something.
Well, this book's got a lot of attention. Your book has gotten a lot of attention based on the section of it that's your trip to Israel and the Palestinian areas around Israel. And I want to get to that in a moment, but it's not just about that.
It's not.
It's essentially there's an introduction, 2 chapters, and then the chapter about the Palestinians. One of those trips is to my home state of South Carolina.
Yes.
Another one is about your trip to Dakar, Senegal.
Yes.
What is the thread that connects those 2 things?
This book is about the importance of writing and the importance of storytelling. It actually is written as a letter, yet another letter, to my students at Howard University, who I taught at the time. And in each place, I was struck by the importance and the significance of storytelling. In Dakar, Senegal, it is the effort to find ourselves as Black people and what our meaning is and what our connection is to the continent. In South Carolina, it was going to see my own book, Between the World and Me, in an attempt to ban it or exile a teacher who actually wanted to see it. And that trip was extremely significant because what I expected, once again, I expected a fight, was not actually what I got. What I found was actually there was quite a bit of support for literature, for that book, against book banning, and for the teacher, Mary Wood, who wanted to teach it. And
it wasn't in a politics class, wasn't in a culture class.
It was in a writing class.
Yeah, about personal
AP
essay.
writing class, yes.
Personal essay.
AP writing class, yes. And I have to be clear, they did not succeed in banning it. And she's still teaching it as today.
One of the things that are interesting in the book is that you're saying that you're a Black writer and you often write about your own experience as a Black man in America, and that you do not translate for white readers. But that this is a white middle-aged woman who is doing, I don't know if she's middle-aged, but this is a white woman.
She's the same age as me. We're the same age, yeah.
Middle-aged.
Yeah, middle-aged. It's true.
And you didn't have to translate for her because, as the old saying goes, the specific, is the general.
Yes.
Because if you talk about your specific feelings, you can have a commonality of humanity with other people, can recognize that in you. What do you recognize between you and the people who have an entirely different Black experience, the people of Senegal?
Yeah, that's a great question. I thought we were going back to South Carolina. The funny thing is, I'm always a work in progress, and even that essay felt unfinished when I had to turn it in. And it's actually been only in the course of talking it out that I have recognized what that is, and that thing is loss. We, as the descendants of slaves, themselves as the descendants of people who were colonized, and thus had to reframe and figure out who they were in the image of people that were trying to exploit them, and us over here in slavery having the same thing. And there's a very profound portion of it, painful portion of it, where I'm talking to a couple about this, and they're talking about the epidemic of skin lightening over there, and why someone would do that. And that really struck me because here I am in Dakar, Senegal. I'm finally home. It's my first trip to Africa. And I'm struck by how beautiful everyone is, right? And then I'm sitting here and, with this woman, and she's telling me how they want to look like how they perceive us being African Americans look.
Is it Gorée Island? Is that the?
Yeah.
Okay, Gorée Island was the door of no return that
Yeah.
you go out to visit, and you say that door that is so famous, that is known as the last place people saw Africa, or people saw these people before they went on the ships in the Atlantic slave trade, that it's not necessarily the door that people think it is. It's not. Okay,
It's not.
but that is a story that you
Right.
are fine with telling yourself, you
Right.
say,
Right.
because of what it symbolizes, what it
Right.
means to you.
Right.
Is it okay to tell ourselves, I'm not going to say comforting lies,
Right.
but to mythologize certain things as long as they represent a truth?
I think all people imagine themselves. I think all people do. All people, take a thing and then invest meaning in it. The question is, what is the meaning and what are you trying to accomplish? And do you acknowledge that you're actually imagining? In other words, it is different for me to say, I recognize that millions of people did not come through the door of no return, but Gorée Island is a place that I am choosing to symbolize an experience, and I acknowledge that. I'm not trying to establish this as absolute fact, which is very different than, for instance, saying America is the oldest democracy in the world, which is itself a myth, but one that people try to use as fact.
Well, I'm afraid you're going to have to leave now, because America is the oldest democracy in the world, and I'm going to edit out any argument you have against that, because I'm an American.
Right.
Okay,
right.
so let's talk about the thing that's gotten the most attention here. Is that, speaking of the stories that we tell ourselves, we in America, those of us who don't have a chance to go to Israel or the Palestinian areas around Israel, we don't know firsthand. We have stories told to us about what is happening there.
Yeah.
Some stories are meaningful to us. Some of them aren't. Some stories are shocking or heartbreaking to us. Some stories aren't. You went yourself to go over there, and you saw what you saw, and you write it in this book, and it's quite harrowing and it's heartbreaking, at times times enraging. But regardless of what someone's critique might be of your journalism, this is really a journal of what you experienced over there. Do you have any surprise about being perceived as writing something radical? Because the facts of what you're saying
Right.
are not in dispute.
Right.
It's, why didn't you balance it?
Right. No, I'm not surprised, because the thesis, or the implicit thesis of that essay is that an entire group of people, that being Palestinians, have been pushed out of the frame, that they don't exist as narrators of their own stories. If that is true, and if it's true of most major media, as I contend, then it makes sense that people in major media would not be happy about that. So no, I wasn't surprised.
You talk about the power of writing, you talk about the importance of journalism, and you also talk about how the mainstream media misuses that power, in your opinion, on how they tell this story. Why do you think that is being misused? Why do you think they don't tell the story that you saw?
So just to be clear about what I saw was roads that were segregated, roads that on the West Bank were set aside for Palestinians and others that were set aside for Israelis. I saw different color license plates, one color license plate for Palestinians, another color for Israelis. I saw settlements where water was plentiful, and then I saw areas where Palestinians lived where they didn't know when they were getting water and when they were not. This, obviously, as an African American, struck me in a particular kind of way. And the only word I had for it was segregation. I think it is extremely, extremely difficult to orient yourself to two things. The first is that there is segregation there, and the second is that the group of people who are doing it are the descendants in collective of one of the greatest crimes ever committed in human history. We would like to believe that when people do harmful or hurtful things, they are just mean people doing harmful and hurtful things. It's much more disturbing to orient yourself around the idea that victims are actually victimizing. That's, I think, tough for people. That's the most generous interpretation of it.
You start this chapter with a powerful description of your visit to Yad Vashem, which is the Holocaust Museum and Memorial in Israel. But you've been criticized because for, quote, not showing the whole picture. You don't talk about Hamas, you don't mention Hamas.
Right.
You don't talk about the massacre and the horrors of October 7th, or the violence against Israelis, or their fear about the existence of their own state. Why did you decide to write this book this way?
Well, I'll say two things. First of all, this is not this is a 250-page book. It's not a history of Israel-Palestine. It is a writer seeking to answer a question, and that is, how did he get it wrong? How were his views so different from what he actually saw? And so a large part of that—
The views you had before you went there personally.
The views I had before. And in large part, that was because the very people who were communicating to me what the situation was there, I lost trust in them. And so when you lose trust in the media that actually trains you, you have to find your own way and you have to find your own method. And the thing that I was not seeing was a Palestinian perspective. And I made a very, very conscious choice to center that. We are always leaving something out. Some of the very people and outlets that criticize me, I would be very interested in how many Palestinian writers they've published, and how many Palestinian journalists they've had on their air, whatever the media outlet is. And so it's not as if they are giving a complete picture either. No one can. We make choices. I can defend, what mine were. I don't know that they can defend theirs.
Well, Ta-Nehisi, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful book.
Thank you.
The message is out now. Ta-Nehisi Coates, everybody. We'll be right back.